Today we're looking at one of the parables from Jesus, and we're going to talk about the mystery of God's methods. Maybe you've been impatient with God, you've prayed for something and you're not seeing results, or at least you're not seeing the results that you want. Well, that's kind of the point in Mark chapter 4 in this parable. Jesus talks about the kingdom of God being like a farmer who scatters seed on the ground. And night and day, while he's asleep or awake, the seed sprouts and grows, but he doesn't understand how it happens. So Jesus goes on and says, the earth produces the crops on its own. First, a leaf blade pushes through, and then the heads of wheat are formed, and finally the grain ripens. And as soon as the grain is ready, the farmer comes and harvests it with a sickle, for the harvest time has come. Now, again, maybe you've read this parable before and you've thought, well, what is this really about? What is Jesus talking about in this story? And then he goes on later, he says, here's another way to understand the kingdom of God. It's like a mustard seed that's planted in the ground. It's the smallest of all seeds, but it becomes the largest of all garden plants. It grows long branches and the birds come and make their homes in it. So Jesus puts both of these parables together for a reason. And he's talking about the mystery of God's ways. Here's the first lesson for us today. Be patient with God's timing in your life. We can't always tell how God is at work. And that's what Jesus is talking about with this parable. He's trying to illustrate it with real life. He says this farmer, night and day, while he's asleep or awake, the seed just sprouts and grows, but the farmer doesn't understand how it happens. And maybe in your life, you felt that way before. You don't really understand what's going on and what God's timing is all about. And that's why I think the first lesson is be patient. I think the second lesson is that we need to trust in God's methods. It's so easy to miss God's work in our lives because we expect it to be different than it is. I mean, remember what Jesus said about the mustard seed. He says it's the smallest of all seeds, but it grows into the largest of all garden plants. And what he's saying is, you don't know why, you don't know how, you don't know why God designed it to work like that in nature. And you also might not know why God uses certain methods in your life or in relationships or whatever. And here's the last lesson. Be confident that God can use you. Think about that mustard seed, how small it is, how puny and unimportant. Maybe you have felt that way before in your life. But look at what Jesus is saying in these parables. This is what the kingdom of God is like. God's kingdom works the way Jesus is describing it in these parables. God can use you. That's just how God's kingdom works. That's just what he always does. Go look at the Bible. He's always using the unexpected people. And that's the mystery of God's methods that we learn from this parable here. God can do more than you expect. It's hard to wait on God's timing. Maybe you've been doing that for a long time. It's hard to trust God to finish the work that he has begun in you. But take a lesson from this parable. God can do more than you expect.